Hello, fire goddesses, and welcome to episode 89. So this episode, I just want to be completely upfront and honest with you. This episode is probably the most poorest quality audio-wise, or you might listen to it and think, oh my gosh, what is this podcast episode about? Because even when I went to re-listen to it, I listened to it again twice, and both times I thought, what was I doing? However, I decided to go ahead and run the episode anyway, despite its poor quality of sound, despite the fact that it isn't 100% perfect, because this episode actually goes into perfectionism a lot. And if you're like most people, perhaps in the past, or perhaps you live your life according to taking action or putting something out there, or putting yourself out there in some way, shape, or form based on how good it is, how perfect it is. And one thing that is probably one of my favorite quotes, I learned it from my mentor, but it's not his quote specifically, is that 70% is success. When you start to get into perfecting and making sure that the audio is perfect or that everything looks and feels and sounds perfect, you're never going to do it. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, I tend to attract a lot of entrepreneurs. You already know what this means, don't you? So really, my intention with putting this episode out there and my intention with getting the guidance to wake up in the middle of the night and get my mic out. I'm in transition right now, so I don't have all of my furniture. I don't have my office set up. I literally got up and I recorded this in my bed because I don't have all of my furniture. And it was the middle of the night. The audio is not good. I'm not sure why, because I used the same microphone that I always did. However, I really feel that it's important to deliver this message, and that is all about self-worth and how we measure self-worth. So many of us, myself included, I've been there, and it's something, trust me, that I work on every single day of my life. Measure and value how good we are by what we are doing, by what we are accomplishing, by how many boxes we're checking on our list. I just spoke with a friend the other night, and she was telling me how she's feeling guided to have purpose, to find what it is in her life that what it is that she's meant to do in this life. What is her purpose? And she kept going back to the to-do list and the checking of the boxes. And, in the conversation, I even said to her, I said, you probably already know this, but checking the boxes doesn't really end the problem. It doesn't get to the root of the problem, which is you looking for what it is that your purpose is in this life. And we all do it because it's how we've been programmed. It's how we've been conditioned. We measure our worth by how much we do. And I'm here to change all that. I'm here to get the word out that perfectionism is really your doorway and your pathway to not having the life that you want. And perfectionism is very, very tied with self-worth, which is really the central theme in my intention for doing this episode. So if it sounds a little all over the place, my invitation is to just hang in there. Know that this episode, even if you don't fully hear it and you're not nodding along and saying, yup, I get it. Know that it's encoded and the message is going to get into your subconscious anyway. Trust that it's going to happen, and especially stay on until the end. It's only a half an hour long, and listen to the messages at the end, because that's really when the nuggets come out. So, goddesses, I invite you to stay tuned and listen to episode 89. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am a prosperity coach for the newly awakened or awake curious, driven overachiever and overdoer. After running a successful acupuncture practice in Boston for 12 years, I decided to hang my hat by closing the practice and pursue what it is that I'm really meant to do in this world, and that is to serve humanity online on a global scale. Using my background in Chinese medicine, along with the brain science of habits, spirituality, and divine masculine and feminine energy balance, I am here to help you not just understand, but know how powerful you are and that you are the person who is responsible for having the finances, inner peace, radiant health, and energy, aka the fire, in your life that you've always desired. My intention with this podcast is to serve humanity, no matter what gender you identify as, to help bring out the divine feminine goddess in each and every one of you. As you probably are already aware, the world is changing and is begging for the goddess to come out in each and every one of you. So, fire goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, goddesses. How are you? Okay, so this is the third or fourth attempt at recording this episode. I think I have had it in my heart of what I wanted to talk about, and yet every time I sat down to talk about it, I was unable to, from my point of view, it's like it's energetically, it's been in my body, it's been in my heart, it's been in my soul, but there was this disconnect between it being there and then actually putting words out. And I even, a lot of times, I'll be perfectly honest, I'm off the cuff. Like, I often have an idea about what I'm going to talk about, but I find that when I create outlines or notes in preparation for my podcast episode, I never really follow the notes. I often just get in the flow of things because everything's channeled, basically, divinely led. And the notes, when I go down to look at the notes, they don't make sense to me anymore, and it often throws me off. So, but for this particular episode, I created an outline. And what I realized, again, was when I went to record, I started going off topic again. And I think because I'm trying to figure out still, is this episode about self-worth? Is it about self-confidence? Is it about alignment? Is it about speaking your truth? And to be perfectly honest, I'm not totally sure yet. So if this episode ends up going on the air, I have no idea. I'm just saying this ahead of time in full transparency. I have no idea what this is going to be about. So just bear with me. And a lot of times I invite you, for those of us who are perfectionists out there, and you believe that in order to do something, it has to be perfect. And maybe that's what's causing you to not push that project out that you've been wanting to do, or create that creative project, or whatever it is. There's so many of us that are holding ourselves back. And I say are because I'm definitely part of the equation there when it comes to putting out those projects. I've been there. And so let's move on with the episode, shall we? So first of all, my Aura Ring is going to be super pissed off at me tomorrow morning, because my Aura Ring, which is my little sleep tracker, if you don't know about Aura Rings, I love mine. I love mine. And it's trying to encourage me to go to bed earlier every night. Every morning I wake up and it tells me, well, you did okay in the sleep department, but you know what would really make you do better is if you went to bed earlier. And I have to say that a lot of my ideas come to me at night. And so I was trending in the right direction, trying to get myself, I don't like to use the word try. Every time I hear myself say the word try, I'm like, ugh. I'm not a fan of that word anymore. But I was trending in the right direction with going to bed. And I was finding myself getting really emotional. And I've been kind of emotional all day long today. And it's Sunday. And I know that there's a lot going on with the collective, with the energy of the people, with the energy of the planet, and then there's been like some crazy solar flares coming off the sun that are really influencing how we're feeling. And we just came off of a new moon a few days ago, so I was feeling kind of unrooted today and extremely, extremely exhausted. And I'll share this with you. I come from a background, and I know that I'm not alone here. So I share this with you not because I want to just unload all of my garbage, but because I know I'm not alone here, especially as a perfectionist, where I feel that my worth is somehow attached to what I did that day. So if I didn't accomplish a lot, or if I wasn't like a little Energizer bunny doing just for the sake of doing, then often I'll go to bed at night feeling like there's something wrong with me, like I'm not good enough. And it goes into my self-worth. It digs into my self-worth. And I laid awake tonight trying to fall asleep. There's the word try again. Attempting to go to sleep. And there was something within me that was saying, it's not time to go to bed yet. And we heal by helping other people. We heal by telling our stories. And finally, I put my hand on my heart, closed my eyes. It was dark out, but, I closed my eyes and I asked my higher self, I asked my guides what it is that I need to do to be in alignment, to feel better, to not be so harsh on myself. And many of you know at this point, I went through a divorce this year and a good part of last year. And my process has been kind of the opposite from what I understand about divorces. I felt pretty like it was smooth sailing in the beginning. Not like it was all like hunky-dory all the way through, but I really truly felt like it was really easy-ish, I should say, not easy, to take the higher road until the last month or so when I moved out of the marital home. Now again, if you're listening to this, and especially if you know me personally, I humbly and respectfully ask you that anything I share on this podcast, if you want to talk about it, to come directly to the horse's mouth. Come to me and talk about it, because this is a podcast that I share with you, from me to you, as my gift from me to you. So come to me if you have any questions, comments about anything I say on this show, and not to my family. I would be really grateful if you could do that. So I laid awake, and finally Source came through me and said, you need to get out of bed and you need to go record a podcast. You need to tell people your story. You need to share this with the world, because I know I'm not alone here. I know that there's many, many people. If I'm experiencing this, there's so many other women out there that are experiencing this, whether it be with their marriage, with their former marriage, a relationship of some sort. Doesn't have to be a life partnership, where, and it doesn't even have to involve a relationship. It could just be that you're a perfectionist, and as a result of being a perfectionist, you spend a majority of your life beating yourself up for not doing enough. And let me tell you, goddesses, that a life of beating yourself up is just going to eat away at your self-worth until you have no self-worth at all. And what does that mean specifically when you have no self-worth at all? So a lot of people confuse self-worth, I did it too, with self-confidence and self-esteem and self-doubt and all the the selfisms that come from probably from psychology. And self-worth, I look at self-worth as the foundation to all of the selves, where self-esteem is more external. If you don't have a strong sense of self-worth, your self-esteem could easily be swayed by if somebody is nice to you that day or not, if somebody compliments you on your outfit or not, if somebody tells you you're ugly that day or not. So in order to have high self-esteem, you need to have high self-worth. And then self-confidence is, you could be, self-confidence relates to something external also, but it has to do more with aptitude. So somebody could be really, really good at something and be confident at it. Like, for example, you could say, I'm a really competent writer, or I'm a really competent communicator, or I'm really, really good with computers, and I'm really confident, not competent, confident, right? I'm really confident with my ability to use computers, or I'm really confident today because I'm wearing this amazingly hot outfit. However, you could still have low self-worth and still be a confident person. And sometimes confidence can be a mask for hiding your pain. We have all known these people. Maybe we've even been these people, where we act confident to mask our lack of self-worth. So self-worth is about how you value yourself. It's about how you feel about yourself, how you feel worthy and deserving about what you can attain in life. And most often, I would say, I learned this specifically in my last 2.5 years of going down the self-development path, is if you don't have what you want out of life, or if you tend to attract like the same types of friends, or the same types of partners, or the same types of situations, those people, why does this always happen to me? Or, oh my God, those people who say, well, leave it to me to, what's an example? Attract the really shitty boyfriend again, or whatever your situation is. We've all known those people that say, woe is me because I always fail at A, B, and C. And oftentimes that's a measure of your self-worth right there. People who don't attract financial abundance because they truly believe, like it's often a very subconscious belief, that they don't deserve financial abundance. And like I said, it's very subconscious oftentimes, this low self-worth. And that's why a lot of self-help people, a lot of coaches, even myself for a while, I didn't really want to address self-worth because I felt that I needed to be a little more basic and talk about self-confidence first, or self-esteem, or self-doubt, before you can fully understand. It was my belief that self-worth wasn't really fully understood, hence maybe I should just talk about the basics. So getting back to self-worth and getting back to how I was laying in bed, and now I have the microphone in my hand, in my bed, and I'm talking to you. I felt really called to come on here today and talk to you about how it's so easy to give meaning to what we do or don't do in a day, in a lifetime, in a week. And we put so much meaning to age, for example. Like how many times have you personally laid awake at night thinking, oh my God, I'm already like 40 years old, or 45 years old, or 50 years old. What have I done with my life? Right? Because we live in a society where we measure our worth by our accomplishments and what we have done. And even if it's just the little things, like cleaning the house, or I can't tell you how many times that I personally, because it's a learned behavior, felt bad because I would spend a day not really wanting to do anything. And it was like this battle with myself, day in and day out. Oh, I gotta check these things off of my to-do list, right? And I don't know if you remember, what episode was it? I've talked about burnout a lot of times. I know I was guests on other podcasts, and I've talked about it in my podcast about burnout. How most people are burned out and don't fully realize they're burned out. Oh, it was a conversation I had with Jason Metford. And it was on his podcast where we really dove into burnout, because most people associate burnout with being a physical condition due to an external circumstance. And while that is true, there is another more deeper level to burnout where people are legitimately burned out and don't realize it. And it could be one of the symptoms of your burnout could be that you're this box checker. Whether it's the boxes on your to-do list, or it's the boxes in your everyday life, whether it's the boxes that society places upon us. Like by the time you're 40 years old, you should have 2.5 kids and have the corporate job of your dreams. And you should be married at least a decade. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm trying to really drive in, and please pardon me because I'm kind of all over the place, is that your worth, your self-worth, can be high or low based on what you choose your self-worth to be. And that comes as a result of making a choice every day to choose yourself. Now, I know it doesn't really sound like it right now in this episode that I have high self-worth, because I just told you about a really kind of a shitty day that I had today. Because all I really wanted to do was lay in bed and relax and read books. And when, I have learned that when I get those hints, that I need to start listening more and more. But I'm not perfect yet. So today I wasn't really listening because when I went to bed last night, I had these intentions and this vision for what I wanted to get done today. Like I needed to go to the automotive store and I needed to get some antifreeze coolant for my car, and I needed to work on my taxes, and I needed to go to the store and get some things. And you know what? Maybe 25% of those things got done. 35% got done. And the rest of the things are going to have to wait until tomorrow. But I was starting to notice that I felt bad. And all of this to say is that even as somebody that's been doing self-development for what seems like forever, as a human being having this human experience, we all are going to have days like this where shit is just not going to get done because the mind, body, spirit, and soul has other plans for us. And that's okay. And that is our truest form, our highest voice, when we get those hints speaking to us, saying, slow down. It's okay. You don't need to do all the things today. Because nothing bad is going to happen as a result of me not putting the coolant in my car. Well, actually, let's talk about that. Side note, if I waited any longer to put the coolant in my car, there might be some bad things happening. But I promise that tomorrow would be the day that I would put the coolant in my car, because my car is like, yeah, you know, Angela, like, you need to take care of me or else I'm going to create all these nasty smells. And maybe I might just blow up the engine while I'm at it. So the coolant will go in the car. But in general, even if my car broke down, even if my engine blew out, right? Everything is still okay. Everything is still okay. So the message that I really want to drive home, and it's all coming back, see? Sometimes I just need to talk it all out loud with you, and I quickly remember what my intention is for this episode. I don't know, do you process this way? Like, I have other podcaster friends that sit down and they write their outlines and they plan out their episodes, which I'm totally for. I'm totally for batch recording my episodes, but this is how I process. And I want to also share with you that you are you because you are you. So however you do things is how you do things. So if you're an external processor, that's great. Investigate that. Play with that. See what happens when you start processing things a little bit differently, or maybe you process things through art or through dance or through singing, whatever it is. And my invitation to you is to consider what it's costing you to continue placing your worth on what you do and how much you accomplish. And I realize I left you hanging with another thought. So, as I was saying earlier, I was kind of feeling like I was having a challenging day today. You know, the sun didn't really come out. It was cold. I was exhausted. But getting back to self-worth. As your self-worth, think about your self-worth as a muscle. So the more you practice and the more you're aware of your self-worth and strengthening your self-worth, the stronger it's going to be and the easier it will be to rely on your self-worth as your inner compass, right? So using myself as an example, even though I had my intentions of what I wanted to do today and I didn't get it all done, it didn't really affect my self-worth that much. Like, for example, I'm not going to go and lower my prices because I feel that no one's going to sign up and work with me. I'm not going to lower my standards of the type of person that I want to attract as my life partner because I fear that I'm not good enough to find that person. I'm not going to back down on building the business that I truly want and desire because I believe that I'm not good enough to do that. So while we all have good and bad days, my invitation to you is to not take any of it personally. Because those bad days are there for a reason. They are there for a reason. They're there to share with us the lessons. So sometimes the lesson is simple. Like my most downloaded episodes, and the most recent one I think was episode 84. What is it costing you to surrender to rest or something? It was all about resting. That podcast is getting so many downloads compared to when I look at the metrics of all the other ones recently. It's that one. The other podcast episode that's doing really well and continues to do well, I don't remember the number, sorry, but it's with Saskia Bergman Smith where we talk about sleep hygiene. That one is doing really well. So that told me something. People need to know more and more information about resting. And we all kind of know, I'm guessing at this point, if you've been on this earth for so many years, you know how to take a nap and you know how to go to bed. But I'm talking about resting. I'm talking about those days where your body, mind, and spirit are saying, listen, I know you wanted me to do this today. I know we had plans to do this today. But frankly, I need to just lay in bed, get a babysitter, or ask the partner to watch the kids, ask mom to watch the kids. Delegate. All those people that have asked if you need help in the past, ask them. Okay, they want to help you. They love you. Go ask them for help. Go ask them for support so that you can nurture your health and well-being. Because when you nurture your health and your well-being, you're going to be a role model to your children. You're going to be a role model to your clients, to your family, to the people around you when they see you practicing self-care. And about self-worth, I said earlier, it's like a muscle. If you don't know how to strengthen your self-worth, my invitation to you is to make that your number one priority. And it starts with creating values that align with that person that you want to be in the future, your point B. So whoever that is for you. Say you want to be a best-selling author. Okay, what are the values of a best-selling author? Say you want to be $1 million earner. Okay, what are the values of $1 million earner? Okay, and you live according to those values, while being mindful and having values around self-love and self-care. And when it comes to self-worth, I'll just share what I did, because I've been working on my self-worth for 2.5 years. I think it's easier at this point to just share what I did, and then you can discover for yourself what works for you. So when I learned about self-worth, and when I learned that my self-worth was low, and that was the reason why I was, for example, giving discounts in my business, feeling uncomfortable about charging, not charging what I was worth, feeling like I need to stick with industry standards with my pricing. So a lot of my self-worth came around money and my marriage. And so what I did is I started self-hypnosis. So I did figure out my values, You can find that online, or you can work with a coach to figure that out. And then I started doing self-hypnosis. And I started with like really, really simple self-hypnoses, where I started working on inner peace. Just my goal was inner peace, to be at inner peace at all times, no matter how tumultuous, no matter how much turmoil was going on in my life. I knew that I could always return to my inner peace. And then from there, I worked on my self-love. So I found self-hypnoses that focused on self-love. And I tell you what, I think I focused on self-love for a good solid year. I think most of 2020 and maybe half of 2021 I focused on my self-love, on loving myself. And that can look at, and you can do self-hypnosis, you could do mirror work where you have a practice in front of the mirror where you talk about, tell yourself that you love yourself. Look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of information out there. And being really, really consistent with the self-hypnosis, because what you're doing when you go under hypnosis is you're retraining your brain. That's why so many people don't achieve results when they make New Year's resolutions or try new habits. It's because it goes deeper than that. Oftentimes it's a subconscious belief that's running in the background that people don't even fully know it's running in the background. So it's like you're fighting yourself 24/7 because your habit, you want to change your habit, and you have this subconscious belief going in the background saying, well, I don't want to change. I want to stay comfortable. So you actually get the opportunity to change your brain, which is so exciting. I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is starting to sound really, really tired. I think I'm getting really tired, so I'm going to wrap this up. But I want to just quickly share with you the takeaways, because I feel like I talked about a lot of things. I want to try to keep it as succinct as possible too. So I talked about self-worth and how self-worth is the foundation of everything. And I talked about how in order to change your self-worth or raise your self-worth, you have to really commit to working on yourself by changing your values, changing your habits, and subconsciously changing your brain through hypnosis. I talked about how your value and your worth is not measured by what you're accomplishing or what you're doing that day. I talked about the importance of rest. I talked about self-love practices. And anything I missed, goddesses, listen. I'm going to bring you more of this. I have this feeling that we're on a hot topic right now. And I'm going to share more with you, okay? But until next time, goddesses, this is your reminder to be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can reclaim your fire at any time. Take care.
Hi, this is Angela Noel, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have found value in listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could kindly share this podcast with those you care about. Please help me spread the word of empowerment and possibility and expansion by sharing this podcast. Or you could also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Remember to follow me on Instagram at I am Angela Noel, or you could go to my website at www.angelanoelinternational.com to learn more about my work and to find out how you can work with me. Thank you very much.